Hello, my friends. You are listening to the Shine at Work podcast, formerly known as Getting Off the Hamster Wheel. I'm your host, Karen Weeks. I'm a transformational career coach who helps career-oriented humans get unstuck and find and be successful in careers that bring them joy, fulfillment, and success. I believe you should actually love what you do, even on the bad days, that you can find a career that lights you up, because spoiler alert, it impacts how bright you shine in your whole life. Every week I talk to someone who felt stuck in their job and found a way to build a career that was right for them, because I know how that feels when your light is dim. I made a career change from theater to HR and now coaching, and at times in my life I've had to look inside to see what was important, what made me shine bright, and make adjustments along the way. It's possible. I did it, my guests did it, and I help others do it. I hope you walk away from each episode not just inspired, but with some actionable advice. And I hope you find it so valuable that you subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and tell your friends, because we all deserve to shine bright in our lives, specifically at work. Okay, let's jump into this week's episode. Hi everyone. Before we jump into today's episode, I actually wanted to share a special offer for all my podcast listeners. I have just a couple of one-on-one spots available, both for the rest of this year, 2021, but I'm also starting to open up spots for January of 2022 for one-on-one coaching to help you get unstuck, figure out what you want to change in your life and your career, and get you on a trajectory that's going to be amazing for the new year. Whether this is your broader life or specifically your career, I can help you. We will spend time unearthing why you're feeling stuck today, things that you enjoy, things that you don't enjoy, and what that all means for the future. Both what kind of roles you could consider, what kind of companies, what kind of industries. Is it a complete 180? Is it a bridge role to get you to a new 180 career? Or is it just taking a step forward and just trying to figure out what would make you happier in your life that is tied directly to your career? So with all that, like I said, I've got a couple of spots left for 2021, but I'm also starting to book for 2022. So if you commit now, when you reach out to me, reference this podcast and I will give you a discount on my rates. I would love to work with you to help you figure out the best way to transform your life and shine your brightest in the new year. So let's connect. You can either email me at karen@karendweeks.com, connect with me through these platforms, or even on my website. And if you reference this podcast, I'll make sure you get the deal. All right, now on to today's episode. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? I cannot believe we are at the end of this season. We have had so many amazing guests, and I'm so honored that they shared our stories with us. Hopefully you took away a lot of information about ways to make a career change, how to identify what is not going right for you, where you're feeling stuck, and the impact that has on you, both in your life and in your work. Hopefully the theme of shining bright at work is really resonating with you, because it is about how you can be your best. And that's actually what we're going to focus on in this final episode. I want to obviously talk about some of the things that were shared in the recent episodes, but more importantly, I really want to dive into what does that mean for you going forward. So you've identified that you're not happy, or that you think your work sucks, or that you're looking for a change, but what does that actually mean for you? Because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're running towards something, not just away from something. Because otherwise you're going to be in the same situation 6 months from now, a year from now, whenever it is that you start to feel stuck again. So as you heard from some of our guests over the last few episodes, we really focused on how to identify where you're feeling stuck and why, and then how to make those steps forward to realize you do have the power of choice. Even if you're making the choice to stay, you have the power to make that decision. You can find happiness at work. You can find a culture that feels right for you. You can find bridge opportunities to take those steps forward so you don't have to take a huge leap, and you can kind of start to make steps towards that direction. Because as Keith likes to say, work doesn't have to suck. So let's actually dive into the different areas where sometimes you can feel stuck at work and how you can then identify where you'll shine brighter in your next opportunity. I'm actually going to share a worksheet as part of the show notes that will guide you through this exercise in a little bit deeper, so you can have something to work with as a takeaway from this final episode of season 3. So first, there's the actual role, the things that you're doing every day. What are the things that you like and what are the things that you don't like? And by the way, there's always stuff you don't like. I've never been in a job where I love every piece of everything that I do. I'm not a huge fan of benefits, for example. Like, I don't like the administrative side of benefits. That's often the part of an HR job, so you suck it up and you do it. But I love the training and development side. And so as I continued to grow my career, it's not surprising that more and more I focused on development, team dynamics, org structures, helping new managers take that step forward, career development, coaching, that all tied to what I loved most about my jobs throughout the years. So as you think about your day-to-day, what are the things that you really enjoy and what are the things that you don't enjoy? And what are the things that you're really good at that you also enjoy? It's very common to think, well, I'm really good at this, so I must have to focus on that. That's not necessarily true. I'm really good at organizing people and event planning. That's actually not something that I love to do outside of like trainings and workshops and those sort of things. But I looked into at one point being like an event planner, and it really wasn't for me. Someone else loves doing that kind of work though, and bringing all of that together for, a conference or a nonprofit or for people's personal lives. I like it within the training space, but I don't really care for it elsewhere. So identify parts of your job that you like doing, parts of your job you don't like doing, and where your strengths overlie the things that you do like to do. So that's step one, the role part. Because if you start to realize you don't like doing a lot of the things that you have to do every day, that's when you realize maybe I need to make a change. Maybe I need to find a different career that will better fit the things that I've learned about myself over the years. But maybe you find that you do like what you do, and it's something else that's leading into your dissatisfaction and your feeling of being stuck in your current role. So now let's take it to the next level. Maybe it's the team structure or your manager, and this is not meant to bash your manager. Managers are trying their best. Maybe you don't have a good manager. It's very possible. But it could be more about their style or the way the organization has set up your role and your team that doesn't fit what you're looking for. Maybe you want to be more autonomous and the team is much more managed to detail. I don't want to use the word micromanage because sometimes it's important that roles are managed to a certain level of detail. Or maybe you really want to be more collaborative and your team is more siloed for whatever reason. And again, this is not about right or wrong. This is just identifying the structure that is there today. Maybe you look for a manager that is much more collaborative. You want to brainstorm with them and be able to talk through things. And really, for whatever reason, they just need you to come up with the answer and deliver that answer. Maybe you're looking for a manager that's much more data-driven and making decisions based off of data versus gut instinct or the relationship that you have. And you're really much more focused on the data. Again, not right or wrong, just different styles. And so is it something more with the way the team operates and the manager that you have? And so that leads to the question, is there a different team you could be on in your current organization? Or again, the role is right and it's just about finding a team or a manager that better fits your style. So let's go one more up. So we've talked about the role, we've talked about your team and your manager. What about the company culture? What about how the company looks at values, what their mission statement is, the difference they're trying to make in the world, if they're trying to make a difference, period. Working in a company that is more conservative, and I don't mean conservative politically, I mean conservative in how they make decisions and speed to make decisions. Or do you work for a company that's more risky and innovative and willing to try things even if they don't work? Is it a company that wants to hear people's opinions and wants feedback on things? Or is it a company that's more tops down and makes decisions and then rolls it down the hill to the rest of the team? These are some aspects of culture that could be impacting if you're enjoying the work that you do, enjoy the people you're working with, and feel like you're having an impact. If the way the company looks at the team and looks at the way the team is supposed to work together, the decisions that are supposed to be made, communication and how decisions are communicated out to the team, how change is handled, those are aspects of a culture that may or may not fit what you're looking for. I'm recording this episode after almost 2 years of being in the pandemic, where we saw Companies have to really support their teams through extremely difficult times, literally think about their physical safety, have to go through some really tough conversations around diversity and inclusion and racial injustice, have to navigate a very, very negative political situation. Didn't matter what side you were on, it was nasty. And then once an election was determined, there was questions from some folks around if it was, legit, and people stormed the Capitol. And again, believe what you want to believe on what was right and what was wrong. But that was some very stressful times for people. And it all happened one on top of the other. How did your company respond to those things? What did you need your company to do during 2020? Not right or wrong. I have my opinion, and obviously I think there's some right or wrong ways to do that, but what did you need out of your organization, and how did they rise up to that moment based on what you were looking for from your company, from your leaders, from your managers? That's what culture is. Culture is not free beer and ping pong tables, especially now that a lot of folks aren't even going back to the office. Culture is, how do we make decisions? How do we treat our people? How do we communicate to our teams during times of change or stressful times? So think about the cultural aspect and what you want out of your organization. And then finally, what do you actually want your company to do? Do you like banking and more financial stuff? Do you want to work for a nonprofit? Do you want to work for a technology company? Do you want to work for something in healthcare and medical? Do you want to be in education? Do you want to be more in manufacturing? There's a gazillion industries out there. So what kind of work do you actually want to do within your company, or what do you want that work to be leading to? Especially if you're in a role like an accountant, for an example, or, when I've been in HR roles, we can do that in kind of every company. Any company needs an accountant. What kind of work do you want that company to be doing? And where do you want to be in an accountant, for example? So you want to think through, is it a mission that you care about? Is it the kind of industry? Some industries pay very differently. Like a tech startup thinks about compensation very differently than a well-established 300,000 person bank versus even a Google who's been around for years and has a much bigger infrastructure than a startup. Do you want to work in education at like elementary school level, or do you want to work in college and higher ed? Do you want to be on the admin side or on the teaching side? So there's lots of different things to think about within every industry. But again, these are all different aspects that you can think of to think about, what do I enjoy doing day to day? How does that tie into my strengths? What kind of team do I want to be a part of, and what kind of management style works best for me? What do I want out of a culture of an organization? And then what kind of industry do I want to be a part of? What kind of work does the company actually do? Like what does it produce? Those are the things to ask yourself to figure out, what do you want to do next? Where do you want to run towards? How will you know if you're shining bright at work? These are the questions to ask yourself. Not just today, not just because of the podcast episodes that we had more recently, but especially as I'm recording this, it is December, which means we're getting close to the new year, which is when everybody reflects and everybody thinks about New Year's resolutions, new goals for the year. What do I want 2022 to look like for me as a person? So it's a great time to really reflect on this, and that's why I wanted it to be the season finale. I wanted to give you some tools to really think about and evaluate and reflect on, if you're feeling stuck today in your job and in your career, why? What do you need to have actually change? And by the way, we didn't even touch upon, do you need more flexibility and work-life balance and all of those other pieces of work? But let's just first figure out, in your day-to-day world, what do you need? And that's where role, team, manager, culture, industry comes into play. Then we can dive into the deeper pieces of, great, you want to be an accountant at a startup with a manager that's really hands-off and just lets you run with things and is there for you to brainstorm and talk to when you need. A company that is going to be remote first and not ask you back into the office, and is very transparent in its communication. Okay, great. Now that we know that, now let's start targeting some companies. Let's start targeting some roles. And then we can figure out the other things that are important to you as we think about what you need in your life. Remember, it's not just about your career. It's all aspects of your life that start to come into play to make sure that you are being the best version of you, that you can shine bright in your life and don't feel stuck in the work that you do. So that wraps us up. I cannot believe we are at the end of season 3. I am so thankful to all my guests. Over the next few months while we're prepping our next season, we're going to be replaying some of the either most popular or most in demand or episodes I got the most feedback on to continue to help you throughout your journey, even while we're not producing new episodes. We'll be back probably sometime February, maybe March, with a new season, so stay tuned. Thank you so much to Novice Studios for all your help with our season and with the episodes this season. It has been life-changing to have you be a part of it. Thank you so much to Mandy, who works with me at KDW Coaching and helps make sure all these podcasts get live and on social media and the guests have everything that they need. Thank you to Astronaut Go Home for the theme music. I'm so thankful to be able to share your brilliance and your artistic vision through whatever it is, like a minute of my podcast every week. And thank you to you. Thank you for listening. I do this podcast to share these stories, to let you know you can make a change. You can find a career that's right for you. You can find a path forward, whatever that looks like, whether it's a complete 180 change, whether it's just finding a place that feels like a better home for you, whether it's identifying all the expectations and self-talk that you've put on yourself that really don't reflect who you are as a human. Whatever brings you to this podcast, I hope you walk away both with inspiration, but also with some actionable advice to help you figure out what you need to do next to get unstuck. And no matter what, I'm here to help. So let's connect. I continue to have a couple of openings in January with more openings coming up in February. I've got some new workshops, some new group programs. So I know I can help you. And if this podcast is just the tip of the iceberg, it's to give you some ideas. And if you need some extra partnership, reach out and let's connect. And I'd love to help you on your journey. Because when you're not happy at work or you're feeling stuck in your life, you won't feel fulfilled. And you deserve to shine bright. You deserve to shine in work and in life. So I hope this podcast, these episodes, this whole season helps you find your path to shine your brightest. Thank you so much for listening to the Shine at Work podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave a review. Leaving a review just takes a few minutes and truly helps other people find the podcast. If you want to learn more about how I work with people to help them transform their careers and shine brightly in their lives, please visit KarenDWeeks.com and follow us on Instagram at KDW Coaching_careers or join our Facebook group with the same name. And thank you, as always, to Astronaut Go Home for our music. Until next time, remember that you can and deserve to shine at work.